a few practical examples and some words about how and why all this. So this is, yes, why do we want to get data from the database? And I mainly use the function new SQL query. And as Mauro pointed out, there is also open database, execute SQL, and so on. So first of all, why to use the database? I think it's the most efficient and effective way to acquire data. To load data from very large tables without limitations regarding client. That is my computer, maybe a small laptop with limited resources where the JMP runs. With database, we have no or least issues with data formats like characters, numbers, dates, and so on, as we always have when we use text files that we import. It is because the data and the formats are defined on the database already, and we get them in the right format. And we have scalability, and it's well distributed over a company, for example. Everyone sees the same data and gets the same data. We just need to share the query that is defined in an SQL text string, for example. And by manipulating this SQL query, we can have a broad variety of queries to get tightly defined and different data sets as we need them. And with the database, the heavy working load can be pushed to the database server. It is when we have a large data set, filtering them or shaping them, instead of doing all this on a small client, or like averaging or recalculation or string operations, regex, and even more complex operations for many rows like aggregation and slope calculation and so on, we can do on database and not waiting for a small client to accomplish this. We have all them well described in the web, for example, how we use the data connectors that are new in JMP 18. You can find very detailed description here, as Mauro already showed some screenshots as well, how we can configure them, how we can use them. It's all written here. And we have a lot of discussions in the community about database access as well, as we can see here. Here is a question, maybe how to perform a single operation at the database. This is done here in the interactive graphical user interface of JMP for the database, and there you have several functions that you could use in your query in the database. And as well, I have had 2 talks in the Discovery Summit 2021 about databases. This is all with the basics. And this is some more advanced using a data table as a data cockpit and pulling interactively with scripts data from database. Maybe I will go in later, but first have a look at what we have in the script here. I will share this script and as well the resources for the Discovery Summit talks, like the journal that is behind this one. Okay, so we find access to the database here in the menu at database. So there is a query builder. There we get the interactive interface for building queries. We have open table, save table, data connectors. And this is a custom script at our company that pulls out all ODBC sources available and makes opening by just one click. It pulls the ODBC connections from the registry in Windows. If needed, I could provide the details for this. It's similar to that what the data connector does. It also provides the available ODBC connections in a graphical user interface. So these are the commands from the main menu. And we can simulate access from database by the query builder using a jump table. And sometimes I really do this or need this if we have a very large jump data table. I like sometimes to pull out a few data or shaped data from that by the jump query builder, maybe not in interactive mode, but in SQL, custom SQL mode. So how does this look like? You can see my scripting editor here on the left and my jump main window here. We see the open tables. For using the query builder, we need an open table. This we do with that script, and now you see the table is open. And when we start the query builder, we could do it here as well. It is for jump tables. It's here then, tables jump query builder. It opens this interface where we can define the query. And we could add several tables here, building the joins at the database, build the query, and here we can define which rows, which columns we want to have. Maybe we want them all. And then we can, let's say, put in a filter. And doing all these things, we could edit joins. We could have a preview, and we can run it or save it. And it gives us the result as an additional table. This is how this generally works. And this is the interactive query with the graphical user interface. And if we more like to do it on SQL way, it can look like this, where we get a query that we push to the database and that we can define by our script. And this query, of course, we can save. It is a jump query object we can use later. We can run it and we can save the script for it, like save modify script. This is the modify script, and the modify script just opens this window again, but an additional one. And the run script just runs this query and gives us the result. Let's close this. so many questions. Okay. Mao already pointed out that there are different methods, different functions in JSL to get data from database. One is new SQL query, another one is open database, and a third one is create database query and execute SQL. I do not know if writing to database goes with new SQL query. Maybe it does, but I never tried. But for querying data, I would highly recommend this one, because there is a discussion in the JMP user group, in the community, and there is a comment from the developers that this is a supported way in future to do database queries, and the other ones will have bug fixing and will be maintained, but they are not the future ways to do this. And that's the reason why I mainly use new SQL query as the way to use database queries. The other ones, open database is just one command to get a data table or data set from the database. And the third one needs two commands. The first one to open the connection, and then you can have several commands executed at the database. Maybe this is more efficient, or I think it's more efficient. There is also some timing information in that thread from JAMO. When you need to do a lot of actions and not want to open and close the connection each time. Now I will go on with some scripting examples. So this, as I told you already, will open the data table and start the query builder we have seen before already. And if I save that script, then I can have it like this. So this is the JMP query in custom SQL mode. And JMP does not need any ODBC connection. It's just a JMP connection to a JMP data table. And the data table is addressed here. So we have the path of the sample table in here. And as we may see later, it's not good to put in the full string here with the version of JMP. It is better to use the sample data I will put in later. So with this, we get the data table, big class, with the restrictions that only female pupils are pulled out. Like we can see here, this is for modify the query. So we get a query object with the query and the condition here. And if we run this, we see that only female class has been pulled out. And we can change it here interactively like this to male and run it again. And we get another query result with the male class part. What we get in the result additionally to the scripts we had in that data table is that source got changed. If we look into this, always in the source script, is documented how the table has been created. You see the query again here. And we get a modify and update from database. Let's delete all the scripts that have come from the big class data table and have a look at these scripts only. So source just recreates this table. Like you can see here, we will get a third one with the same content. And we have behind all queries, behind all functions, we have the same SQL like here, as well as a table variable. And modify opens the query again. We can modify and then run. We have done before already. And update just updates this data. If I click here, we will see nothing. So that's the reason why I delete these rows. And when we do update, it pulls the data again from database and fills it into the table. So it as well will change the data currently in that table. So if I delete this number here and I say update from database, it puts it in again, it updates it from database. So with new SQL query, we always get these three scripts. Let's close this one. Yes, and we can use the run query like this. And we see that I have defined the name of the table here. We get the table and jump gives us the reference to the data table back, so we can use it. We can work afterwards with that data table and yes, use it for the following tasks. Just an example how to proceed this further. We could have a query list like this. So we have a first query, we have a second one, and maybe a third one. Then we can define an empty list, and then we can loop through this list of queries and insert them, the query, into the new SQL query object. And the new SQL query gives that reference back. And this reference is put into the table list that has been defined here as an empty list. So if I close this table that is open in background and I execute this script from here to here, I get a table list with all the results. And in the loop, I need to close the big class table because it's opened when doing this query and it's kept in background and I want to tidy things up. That's why I close the big class original table. So if we have a look how this works, we see that we get the results, the result table, and the references for the result tables are stored in the table list. And the next script just appends the second table to the first one, or if we would have more tables, it would append them all and combine them into one large table. I did not see whether this worked here, but it did not, I think. Now it worked. And then we close the table we do not need. And then we have the result table as all single tables combined. And as you may know, we can, with concatenate tables, we can use the source table that we see where it comes from. So this is one way how to get data out of database and use it by concatenation and somehow else. You can see that we have all the scripts here added. Maybe we could add, modify the script to delete these scripts we do not need. Another example is a join, how to join a database and to join in JMP. For example, like this. I need to tidy up before. Here I open two tables. This is just a script from the scripting index. You will find it. Here I just create a new window to execute this example. So this comes from scripting index. So if you look for join, you may find this. And it does the join in JMP. I need to pull it over. So here we see the original tables, this one, little and trial one. And this is the joined table. So the result of the join. And if we have very large tables, this could be quite heavy for a small laptop like our clients are. It would be better to do this at database. And this is how we can do it in JMP with JMP tables. So again, I think I can write here modify. Then we will see that a query, it worked before. Let's try again with run.
No, you just missed some of the text.
Yeah. Okay. I run it, and here we get the same result, but in a different way. And we see again that JMP keeps the original tables in background. So I could close it. But here the join is done in the custom SQL. You can see here, select these columns from trial 1 and join this table with T2, that is popcorn. The tables are defined here. And because we go to roasting sessions next month, you can see that this is not very good written here. We could replace it by sample data so that it will work in future versions as well. Let's change this and see if it works again. Yes, it works, and it will work in JMP 19 as well. And let's try again modify. And this brings up the query window, and we can edit as well or save it as a query and so on. So there are many options to new SQL queries. So we can run them in foreground, run them in background. So it may be a heavy query from database taking quarter of an hour or 1 hour even. And this takes a lot of time. And if we would run it in foreground, it will block our jump. So we cannot do other things. That's the reason why we can run it in background. And you can see in preferences, file preferences. So there is query builder. If I cannot see it, here it is. But if I could not see it, I can of course look for it. And here we see, for example, run the query in background when possible. And we can see other things here as well. In table, for example, there is hide ODBC connection strings. That's the reason why I like to work with new SQL query, because I can keep the connection string in the table and it will hide the password. For the other functions, we may have an issue with saved passwords in the data table. That, of course, we do not want. But I like to work with the data table that has a query stored inside, so that I have a documentation of where the data comes from. And I can just recreate or update the data at a new day. Okay. Run foreground, background. There may be some issues with database scriptings. We have seen preferences, yes, connection strings. There may be some problems with connection timeout. There is a bug, as far as I know, if timeout from database occurs during fetch, jump will not report on this. There may be some issues as well. That's why, for example, in ODBC administrator of your operating systems, you can set that you want to log the communications and so on. But this goes a lot deeper into this. And maybe we have just a look into this one here, the journal. I will provide all these things. Yes, here we have a lot of example scripts, how to do this and that. And we see jump query builder. Here it is, the ODBC data source administrator. We need 64-bit for jump because it's a 64-bit program, and we work a lot with ODBC sources. And here you can define as a user DSN, that you can reach to the database with just the name of the database. And you can have different drivers and you can do the tracing as shown here. Okay, that's it from my side. And there are some minutes left for discussion, I think. So let's